Although this is only the second highest mountain, it rises majestically with a conical shape and offers an unobstructed view over land and sea. It is said that the mountain was the landmark of the ancient seafaring Arabs, who came to Sri Lanka to trade in gems, spices, ivory, etc., and they, having sighted the conical mountain miles offshore, prayed to God for having brought them safely to the island. According to Sri Lanka's great chronicle Mahavamsa, Buddha visited Sri Lanka 3 times. The last time he traveled from Kalania to Sripada and then to Digavafi thus consisted in the Solos Masthana of Sri Lanka. It is said that Buddha left his footprint on the rock at the peak of the mountain at the invitation of the deity Saman Devio. According to the Englishman John Davy, who visited the summit in 1817, it is a superficial hollow, 5 feet 3 inches and 3/4 long, and between 2 feet 7 inches and 2 feet 5 inches wide. It is ornamented with a margin of brass, studded with a few gems of little value. It is covered with a roof, which is fastened to the rock by 4 iron chains and supported by 4 pillars, and it is surrounded by a low wall. The roof was lined with colored cloths, and its margin being decked with flowers and streamers, it made a very gay appearance. The cavity certainly bears a coarse resemblance to the figure of the human foot. Were it really a impression, it is not a very flattering one, or the encomiums which are lavished on the beauty of the feet of Buddhu are very improperly bestowed. A similar print in Thailand is believed to have the imprint of the Buddha's right foot, which is about 5 feet long and 2 feet broad. The real footprint on Adam's Peak is believed to be set in jewels beneath the visible rock. The soles of the Buddha's feet are said to be flat with all the toes of equal length. On each sole, there are 108 auspicious marks, Mangala, Lakhana, with the wheel, chakra, as the principal mark at the center, while around it are grouped figures of animals, inhabitants of various worlds, and other kinds of symbols. Buddhists knew that this mysterious footprint had been made by the Buddha long before, as far as the 1st century BC, any other religion was introduced to the country. But in succeeding centuries, other faiths, Islam, Hinduism, and Christianity, were to lay claim to it. Muslims believe the footprint to be that of Adam, hence the name Adam's Peak. Christians, that of St. Thomas, the disciple Jesus, and Hindus, that of the god Shiva. The Tamil name of the rock, Tsivanolipata, the mountain path of Shiva's light, or Svargarohanam, ascent to heaven. The first historical mention of Sripada comes during the reign of Vijayabahu, 1055 to 1110. Earliest historical evidence in chronicles and inscriptions. It is recorded that the king, having seen the difficulties undergone by the pilgrims on their way to worship the Sri Pathula, Buddha's footprint, on Samanthakuta, dedicated the village named Jilamale to provide for their needs. Stone inscriptions of Vijayabahu have been found at Jilamale and Ambagamua, confirming the statement of the chronicle. But it was King Nisanka Malla, 1187 to 1196, who reigned from Polonnaruwa and started the pilgrimage after he ascended the mountain with his 4-fold army with great faith and devotion. At the beginning of the 16th century, the Portuguese conquered Sri Lanka's maritime provinces and forbade Buddhists living under their jurisdiction and those coming from overseas from going to Sripada. By way of contrast, the King of Kandy, in whose realm the mountain was situated, allowed Christians to enter his territory to make the pilgrimage. When the Dutch took over the maritime provinces in 1656, they proved to be less bigoted than the Portuguese, but fear that pilgrims might act as spies for the King of Kandy led them, if not to ban, then at least to discourage visits by levying a heavy tax on pilgrims. For nearly 2 centuries, Sinhalese Buddhists living in the Low Country could see the sacred mountain and worship it from afar, but not go there. In 1581, the Crown Prince of Kandy murdered his father, King Mayadane of Sitawaka, and proclaimed himself King Rajasinghe I. When he asked the Buddhist monks how he could wash away the wrong deed done by him, the monks replied that he could not get away from this and he should take responsibility for his action. But the Hindu priests, on the other hand, were willing to perform a puja to help the king ease his guilty conscience, and so he converted to Hinduism. As a result, the Buddhist priests were driven off Sripada and it was handed to the Andes, a non-Brahminical Siva sect from South India. and they administered it for the next 160 years. Later, King Kirti Sri Rajasinha, 1747 to 1781, restored Buddhist ownership and appointed Ven. Welivitiye Saranankara Sangharaja Mahathera to look after Buddhist interests of the holy mountain. He also donated the village of Kutapitiya, and a copper plate charter in support of this donation is still in existence. Thank you. To know such important information, subscribe to the SL Pahura YouTube channel and click the bell icon on the right side.